two-series novel about a young woman who got in trouble at school for doing a picture of her private parts.
I wrote this, there's two types of writing, plotting and pantsing. And plotters work everything out in advance, and pantsers just write by the seat of their pants. And I pantsed the first novel. So I was as surprised about what Ella did as everybody else.
Now, your depiction of sexuality in these two books is very believable. And the part that I found most intriguing is that you've not only given her a realistic sexual life, but she's has two boys that she's very involved with, not just one.
Yeah.
And that was dealt with in a very realistic way because adults have the same problem.
Yeah. As far as content goes, I have a fair understanding of what is acceptable in young adult literature and what I would want my daughter to read when she's a young adult, and what she would be interested in reading. The swearing, it's too late for my daughter and most kids. They've heard them all. And as far as the sexual content, it's not so much that I don't want young people to read those scenes. It's just that I don't want them to be embarrassed while they're reading the book. And that kind of thing still grosses you out when you're 13, 14, 15 years old. And when you're 16 years old, you're already reading 50 Shades of Grey. So
how did the breakthrough come for you to write a verse novel?
I just set myself a challenge to write in verse. I heard about young adult verse novels for the first time in about 2005. And I thought, that's weird. And I thought it might be like Paradise Lost or something like that, an epic poem. So I bought one of them, Sonia Soanes's book, which is called One of Those Hideous Books Where the Mother Dies. And I loved it. And it wasn't an epic poem at all. It was a collection of poems the way Audacious and Capricious are. And I was quite captivated by that. So I read a lot of her books and a lot of other books, Ellen Hopkins and Lisa Schroeder. And I don't know why I did it. I'm not a poet. I've never really been one of those people who likes to write poetry. But it just seemed to work for me. It was a great process. I felt really creative and comfortable when I was writing.
I find the term verse novel is very inappropriate, especially with your writing. It's not poetry. It's not verse.
Yeah.
It's something where you're capturing the cadence of poetry in prose.
Yeah.
And I think the reason people like this book is because it's somehow found a middle ground.
Yeah. I do think the term verse novel is inadequate. I don't think it's completely inappropriate. It just doesn't quite capture what we're doing. And, there's a kind of a sisterhood of verse novelists, and there's a few guys too. And we're all sort of trying to, it's quite new. It's a new idea for young adult novels, and the way that we're doing them is quite new too. These are not like Dante's Inferno, as I said. This is a new way of approaching narrative. And we're kind of making it up as we go along.
How did you get these two titles, Audacious and Capricious?
Well, Audacious actually came from the scene where Ella makes a joke about Jackson Pollock. And then she says, I'm just kidding. I really like him. He's so audacious. And Samir says, Audacious should be your middle name, which I think is an incredibly romantic thing to say. And of course, would completely set Ella's heart on fire for someone to say that to her. And I did not know before I wrote that scene that the book was going to be called Audacious. And I also didn't know about the art piece. But once that word was attached to Ella, the whole concept of what was going to happen in the book just came to life. And it was very easy to finish that book after. It probably took me like 2 years to write to that point and about 3 months to finish the book after that point.
What amazes me is how you can go back to your own childhood or teenhood and somehow recreate it for a different youth 20, 30 years later. So you're in two worlds at once. Is that what you're doing?
I think so. And a lot of my writing for young people is kind of an idealization or a renovation of my own childhood and my own youth, I would have loved to have 2 boyfriends in high school. So I can do that. I created this character who's kind of an autobiographical me, and she has a better run at it, a little bit more intention and a little bit less random. And she's prettier than me and skinnier.
Good. Thank you.